established in spring of 1952. This was originally consisting of 5 officers, 10 enlisted men. We reached our peak strength at the end of the Korean War with over 1,900 soldiers assigned. Now then, to place your tour into better context, a brief review of the political history of the Korean Peninsula. Prior to World War II, the Japanese colonized the Korean Peninsula. But in the final days of World War II, the Soviet Union accepted surrender the Japanese north of the 38th parallel, while the United States accepted surrender the Japanese in the south. That 38th parallel was never meant to be a political boundary nor a division of country. This was merely established to designate areas of responsibility. So in May 1948, elections were held in the south, and this man, Dr. Sin Man-rhee, was elected the first president of the Republic of Korea. In September of that same year, the Soviet Union appointed Kim Il-sung to be the first mayor of communist North Korea. He reigned approximately 46 years until his death in July 1994. His eldest son, Kim Jong-il, then succeeded him in power. That was actually the first ever father-to-son succession of power in a communist country. He reigned approximately 17 years until his death in December 2011. His youngest son, Kim Jong-un, then succeeded him in power, currently reigning. This was the second ever father-to-son succession of power, and it marks the 3rd generation of the Kim family to rule over communist North Korea. Despite negotiations, attempts to reunify the Korean Peninsula, on 25 June 1950, North Korea launched a massive surprise attack. This ensuing war lasted over 3 years, and it cost more than 2 million people their lives. Then the first month of this attack, North Korean forces managed to capture most of the Korean Peninsula. Coalition forces were able to halt the army's advance through the city of Busan. While over the next 4 months, the United Nations Command conducted the Incheon landing, pushing the North Korean forces back up to the Yalu River, and that is the war between North Korea and China. Now at this point, China entered the war. They aided the North Koreans in their war effort. The war then began to stabilize around that 38th parallel. However, a permanent settlement had not yet been reached. So on 27 July 1953, military commanders of the United Nations Command, the Korean People's Army, as well as the Chinese People's Volunteer, signed an armistice or a ceasefire agreement to end the fighting. This agreement is still in effect today, so the war between North and South Korea has remained relatively the same ever since. Here, this white dotted line you see represents the military demarcation line, or the MDL. Under the provisions of the armistice, all military commanders were ordered to pull their troops back 2,000 meters from their last point of hostile contact, thus creating a 4-kilometer wide and 241-kilometer long demilitarized zone, or DMZ. Notice here the location of Seoul and its relationship to the military demarcation line. In the upper left-hand corner, you see the city of Kaesong. Kaesong was the original site of all the armistice talks prior to being moved to the Panmunjom, or what we call the Joint Security Area. And although the demilitarized zone has actually become one of the most militarized locations in the world, the MDL itself consists of no fortifications. The MDL is simply a series of 1,292 black and yellow panel markers. These markers run coast to coast. They are spaced at 1 to 200 meter intervals. On the southern side, you can read these signs in Korean or Hangul at the top and English at the bottom. While on the northern side, they read in Korean at the top and Mandarin Chinese at the bottom. Within the JSA, the MDL is more clearly defined by a series of white stakes. These stand approximately 1 meter in height. They are spaced at 10 meter intervals. The stakes then further extend through conference row, separating each of the buildings by a 17 by 5 inch slab of concrete. Now here's the area north that you'll be visiting today. Your tour begins here at Camp Bonifas and will exit onto the MSR, or the main supply route. This is also known as Old Highway 1. For 50 years, Old Highway 1 was the only stretch of highway that connected North and South Korea. That was at least until they decided to open the East and the West transportation corridors. This is still the only route that leads directly to the JSA for all armistice-related events. Now, on our tour today, myself and Martinez will be able to point out to you Guard Post 240, Observation Post Oulet, Taesongdong or Freedom Village, Gijongdong or Propaganda Village, the Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission, or the NNSC camp, as well as the former Czech and Polish Neutral Nations camp. Highlight a couple of places that you will see today in a little bit more detail. First off, the village of Taesongdong or Freedom Village. The UNC is responsible for implementing all the civil affairs and the security throughout this village. We carry out our responsibilities through a security company which guards this village 24 hours a day. During the day, they provide security for the farmers while they tend their field. At night, they guard the village itself while those residents sleep. Now these residents, they have actually very modern homes, rather large allocations of farmland. They do live under some very severe restrictions. They must be inside that village by nightfall and inside all their homes with the windows and doors secured by midnight. Only 1,800 meters from Taesongdong, across the MDL, is the village of Gijongdong, or Propaganda Village. This village obtained its name due to an extremely large speaker system located throughout the area that until June of 2004 broadcasted propaganda 6 to 12 hours a day. It actually could be heard here at Camp Bonifas, and that was mostly only at nighttime. Now this propaganda, it idolized Kim Jong-il to be a great leader, and it invited the citizens of Taesongdong, as well as the rest of the republic, to defect to this so-called village of paradise. However, if anyone were to defect, they would find themselves rather lonely, as it is mostly uninhabited. We will see some people here from time to time who will maintain the upkeep of the buildings, as well as raise and lower this extremely large North Korean flag. That is actually the third largest flag in the world, approximate length of 31 meters. This here, the second of two flagpoles to stand in Gijongdong. 1981, the Republic of Korea donated a flagpole to the village of Taesongdong. This flagpole stood taller than the original flagpole in the village of Gijongdong. So North Korea quickly responded to this by building an even taller flagpole. That flagpole in Taesongdong is 100 meters in height, while the one in Gijongdong is 160 meters in height. As we enter into the joint security area today, I'll also be able to point out to you the Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission, the NNSC camp. Delegates from Switzerland, Sweden, Czechoslovakia, and Poland originally formed this commission. This commission was charged with investigation of all the armistice violations happening outside of the DMZ. Today, we only deal with 3 of those delegates. The Swedish and the Swiss, they stay here around, and the Polish delegates, which come for biannual meetings. Now visible from checkpoint 3 today, we're going to see the former Czech and Polish Neutral Nations camp, as seen here on the right-hand side. On the left, North Korea's People's Peace Museum. The Peace Museum was constructed in less than 48 hours. That was solely for the purpose of the signing of the Armistice Agreement. Also visible from checkpoint 3, the Bridge of No Return. This bridge obtained its name near the end of the Korean War when Operation Big Switch and Little Switch were commenced. During this, the United Nations Command returned over 82,000 prisoners of war, while North Korea and China returned approximately 13,000. Those prisoners were lined up on either side of the bridge. They were given the opportunity to cross into the country of their choice. However, once they crossed, they could never return. The bridge lies on the edge of the southern boundary portion of the joint security area. There we go. All the blue buildings you see belong to United Nations Command, the UNC, while the red buildings belong to North Korea or the KPA. Prior to 1976, the JSA was actually considered a neutral location, in which both guard forces could cross freely into the other border. North Korea took full advantage of this by building 4 communist guard posts on the southern boundary portion, while you'll notice the UNC built none in the north. Notice UNC checkpoint number 4 here, how it's surrounded on 3 sides by those communist guard posts, isolated from the rest of the JSA. Soldiers here at checkpoint 3 had limited visibility to soldiers of checkpoint 4. This was due to an extremely large yellow poplar tree that grew in this area. So on 18 August 1976, the UNC dispatched a 5-man civilian work detail. This was accompanied by a 12-man security force to conduct a routine tree trimming operation to improve the visibility between those 2 checkpoints. Upon arrival, they were met by 28 North Korean guards, which was not uncommon at the time. However, after 15 minutes or so, those North Korean guards attacked. Now this ensuing fight lasted for only 4 minutes. In that time, the JSA company commander, Captain Arthur Bonifas, and 1st Platoon leader, 1st Lieutenant Mark Barrett, were brutally axed to death. To give you a better understanding of how outnumbered they were, I'll highlight a couple soldiers visible in this photograph. First one is actually kind of hard to make out. You can see he's fighting off 7 North Korean guards by himself. He actually managed to survive the attack. Here's the helmet of Captain Bonifas, who was murdered right there in front of his own vehicle. And here you clearly see a North Korean guard wielding an axe at a JSA soldier. That soldier is actually 1st Lieutenant Mark Barrett himself, who later died from his wounds. Due to this unprovoked act of violence, a special series of meetings was commenced. It was then decided that MDL itself should separate those two guard forces. Under these new arrangements, we had no more acts of violence until 23 November 1984, when a Soviet citizen on a North Korean-sponsored tour dashed across the MDL and attempted to defect to the free world. North Korean guards armed with pistols and rifles followed this man to either kill or capture him. During this, the JSA Quick Reaction Force was immediately alerted. They were able to halt and outflank the North Korean main body. There were approximately 30 North Korean guards on the northern boundary portion of the sunken garden. Now this firefight lasted for approximately 20 minutes. In that time, KPA had 5 men wounded, 3 men killed, while the UNC had 1 man wounded and 1 man killed, Corporal Jang. The Soviet defector, he was actually a reporter for North Korea, so when he came back, he was evacuated back here at Camp Bonifas. Later went on to America and became a reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle. Now, while on our tour today, we will see KPA soldiers. These red armbands you see here state that they are military police. Under the armistice, all armed personnel within the DMZ are required to wear the armbands. However, KPA no longer do so. They may come down to see our tour today. If they do, all we ask, don't communicate with them in any way. That would be verbal or nonverbal. The UNC also provides securing assistance to humanitarian operations, such as repatriation of remains to the north, the delivery of humanitarian aid to the north. We also provide securing assistance for visiting dignitaries and heads of state, such as former President of the United States, George W. Bush, former President of the Republic of Korea, Im Pak, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, John Key, the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, and the former Secretary of Defense, Honorable Robert Gates. Like these visiting dignitaries and heads of state, you will be guarded by soldiers of this battalion. Soldier on the right-hand side, U.S. Army infantry soldier. We serve a minimum of 12 months here. While the soldier on the left-hand side is a Republic of Korea or Iraq soldier. They serve a minimum of 24 months here. Both soldiers must maintain above-average aptitude standards as well as have a clean military and civilian record in order to be stationed here. It is due to all of this that we are the most forwardly deployed unit on the Korean Peninsula. That we stand face-to-face with our enemy on a daily basis. That the United Nations Command, the Republic of Korea, as well as the United States Army has given us our motto, which we so proudly state, ladies and gentlemen, we truly are in front of them all. Thank you.